Tomorrow's April 15th. Your oppressive taxes are due then. Except this year they're not. This year they're due April 18th, next Monday. Why? Who here knows why?
It's a holiday.
It's a holiday. What's the holiday?
It's the Washington holiday.
George Washington? No.
No, it begins with an E.
Patriot Day? No.
It begins with an E.
E, that's right, Emancipation Day. Friday is the official celebration of Emancipation Day, the day President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Act, which freed not all the slaves, just 3,100 slaves in the nation's capital. Now, that happened in 1862, but it's been a holiday only since Washington, D.C.'s mayor declared it one 5 years ago, and it's an official holiday only in Washington. But that was enough to change tax day this year from April 15th to the 18th, except this seems weird because Emancipation Day is April 16th, not the 15th, so why change tax day? Because the government decided Emancipation Day has to be celebrated on a weekday, so the 16th being a Saturday, Emancipation Day must be celebrated the day before, which is April 15th, and so the tax deadline should be moved to the 18th. Got that? This is the kind of government thinking that gets us 80,000 pages of new rules. Here's the pile. 80,000 new pages every year. This, plus high taxes and complex rules, threaten the entrepreneurship that gives us the power to prosper. All those rules, every day they come out with another one of these. All this gives enormous power to the Wesley Mouches of Washington and in every state capital. Because most of these rules have a million possible interpretations, the bureaucrats have the power to stop any new enterprise or an expansion of an old one. This cripples economic growth, makes people afraid to innovate. But it's innovation that brings us all the best stuff. Now, this month brought us a possible breakthrough in freedom from government. To start, there were the small budget cuts that almost led to a government shutdown. The agreement that stopped the shutdown provoked the mainstream media to run ridiculous headlines like this one: biggest cuts in U.S. history. And President Obama called it the largest annual spending cut in our history. But it's not even close to that. $38 billion is a tiny cut, and the Wall Street Journal now reports that it's really only $20 billion or so. And that comes after Obama and Bush increased spending by $2 trillion. 38 or 20 billion is just 1% of the almost $4 trillion that they're going to spend. So this 1% cut's nowhere near a record. Spending dropped by more than 50% after World War II. On a percentage basis, it dropped even more in 1919. Yet the Washington Post runs headlines like that. In raw, unadjusted for inflation dollars, it is true. But that's deceitful. It's like saying the movie Shrek 3 is one of the highest-grossing movies of all time. Or that Coca-Cola costs 15 times more than it used to. It's not true if you adjust for inflation. But the political class wants you to think that any budget cut's a big deal. It's not a catastrophe. The good news is that last week, for the first time, Republicans offered real cuts, a path to a balanced budget. Paul Ryan's proposal repeals Obamacare, ends corporate welfare, would make the social safety net sustainable. Great. The Republican Study Committee went further. They proposed cuts that would end deficits in 8 years. That even inspired President Obama to propose his own deficit plan, though his is more about goals than specific cuts, and he'd raise some taxes. But at least finally, there is serious talk about cutting the size of government, cutting spending. Now, if they'd only get serious about simplifying taxes and getting rid of most of these rules, you know? That's what kills entrepreneurship. And that's our show for tonight. Thanks for watching. Good night. Okay, thank you.